Welcome back to The Deep Dive, the show where we take complex material and filter it down to the most essential, actionable knowledge you need.
Today's deep dive is hyper-focused. We are analyzing sources dedicated to the most common, frustrating, and, the most noticeable speaking mistakes made by English learners.
That's right. If you're studying for fluency or prepping for high-stakes exams like the IELTS, you know that just knowing a grammar rule isn't enough.
Not at all.
The goal is really automation. Can you execute the correct grammar instantly, under pressure, without even thinking about it? That's the mission we're tackling today.
And our sources provide these really specific, almost surgical fixes for over 24 high-frequency errors. These aren't just minor slips.
No.
These are the kind of structural and flow issues that really break down communication and can, lower your perceived proficiency. We're aiming to turn those rules into habit.
Okay, let's unpack this. We should probably start with the foundational error, the one that throws the listener off the most. Controlling the flow of time, tenses, and the critical need for consistency.
The primary pitfall here is mixing your past and present when you're telling a story. A person might start correctly, something like, I went to the store, but then they immediately revert.
Right, and it becomes, I leave the house at 6 and arrived late.
Exactly. That switch, that cognitive jump from past to present and back again, it just makes the story incredibly choppy.
Yeah, the listener has to constantly reestablish the timeline you're describing. So the key fix from the source material is simple, but often ignored under pressure.
Which is?
Just stick to the simple past for a connected series of events.
So it becomes, I left the house, took the bus, and arrived at the store. If you're telling a past story, everything needs to be anchored firmly in that past.
And crucially, the sources bring up a vital fluency signal related to this, the pronunciation of the past tense.
Oh, this is a big one.
It's not enough to just write the A and ending. You have to practice the 3 different sounds for that suffix.
The D sound, as in played.
The T sound, as in cooked.
And the T sound, like in departed, the correct sound is essential for the past tense to register automatically with the listener.
Okay, so that's the past. What about mistakes in the present?
A very common one is confusing the simple present and the present continuous. This often comes from, I think, direct language translation.
So if I look out the window right now, the mistake would be to use the simple present for an action happening right this second. Like, look, it rains.
Exactly. And the distinction is so vital. Present continuous is for that temporary action happening now. It is raining.
Whereas the simple present describes a permanent situation, a habit, or a universal fact.
Right. Water boils at 100 degrees C, or in my city, it often rains in the winter. If you can create that mental distinction, is it temporary or is it permanent? You solve half the problem right there.
I was actually surprised by the source's emphasis on the next point, the stative verb trap. Why does that one tiny category of words cause such noticeable errors?
Because of the pressure, I think, to always use that continuous form for things happening now. But stative verbs like believe, they describe a state, not a physical action.
And they're the exception.
They're the exception that signals non-native speech immediately if you misuse them.
I hear it all the time. Someone will say, I am not believing him, or I am knowing the answer.
And it's instantly jarring. Because they describe a state that is true right now, they just default to the simple present. I don't believe you, I like this book. This is a perfect automation drill. Every time you see a stative verb, your brain has to have that tripwire to skip the ing.
So mastering the flow of time gives us control over when things happen. Now let's look at how structure itself can trap us. Let's shift to part 2, structural pitfalls and redundancy.
Our first structural trap is what the sources call embedded questions. This happens when learners try to make their speech more sophisticated, but they keep the question word order.
For example, asking something like, I don't know, where's my book?
Right. That maintains the direct question form with the verb before the subject.
And the fix is an inversion.
It's an inversion. In an embedded question, the subject has to come before the verb. So it becomes, I don't know where my book is.
Or, can you tell me how old she is?
Yes. And if you can do that automatically, you've really leveled up your structural game. It's a huge marker of a higher register of speech.
Next up, we see a massive transfer error from other languages that leads to conjunction overload. Basically, using 2 words where one would do.
Oh, absolutely. The sources highlight the common misuse of paired conjunctions where both words mean the same thing, like for cause or for contrast.
You mean like, although she was tired, but she went to work?
That's the one. Or because I liked him, so I tried to help.
In English, that structure is just redundant. You had to choose one.
Either Although, or, but to show contrast, either because or so for cause and effect, using both just slows the listener down.
And another precise structural rule is about conjunctions with negative verbs. Many people mistakenly use and here.
Right, you'll hear, he doesn't smoke and drink.
When the verb is negative, the correct connector is or are. He doesn't smoke or drink.
And D is only for when both verbs are positive. He smokes and drinks. It's one of those small details that makes a huge difference in sounding natural.
We should also probably mention binomial pairs. The sources highlight these as critical for sounding natural.
These are those fixed word pairs that have a rigid, unchangeable order.
This really goes beyond grammar and into cultural fluency. I mean, the words mean the same thing, but you can't switch them.
Right. It's always salt and pepper, never pepper and salt.
Bread and butter.
The sources mention others, like pros and cons, give and take, even cease and desist. Respecting that fixed order just makes your speech sound significantly more native. It reduces the cognitive load for the listener.
Okay, moving on to part 3. This is about quantifiers, comparatives, and counting. Let's start with the classic error, fewer versus less.
The mistake is using less for countable nouns. You hear it constantly. There are less people here today.
So the fix is a little mental test. If you can add a number before the noun, you have to use fewer. If you can count the items, people, cars, tasks, it's fewer.
Exactly. Less is reserved exclusively for things that are uncountable. Less water, less traffic, less time.
So you can have fewer grains of rice because you can count the grains.
But you have less rice overall because you treat the substance as one mass. Automating that distinction is key.
Another mistake in comparisons is mixing structures, like using both more and the or suffix together.
Ah, yes. The dreaded more quieter.
Nobody wants that.
The rule is standard. One-syllable adjectives take quieter, faster, taller. 2 or more syllables take more interesting, more beautiful.
And finally, in this section, we have to tackle those critical, uncountable nouns that are often countable in other languages.
This is a huge one. The mistake is putting a or an in front of them like, he gave me an advice.
And the sources are clear. There are 3 you have to memorize immediately.
Advice, news, and information. You just cannot put a or an before them. You have to use a phrase like some news, some information, or a piece of advice. Fixing just those 3 solves a massive structural problem.
Now we get to the smallest words that can cause the biggest errors. Part 4 is all about modals, articles, and prepositions. Let's start with modal verbs.
This is a classic example of a transfer error. The mistake is following a modal verb, must, can, should, might with to.
You hear it all the time. I can to swim, or I must to go.
And the fix has to become a reflex. Modal verbs are always followed directly by the base form of the verb, no to.
So, I must go, I can swim, you should study. It's a high-frequency automation drill, really.
Definitely. Then there's the definite article, the. Many learners just omit it when they're speaking about large, abstract concepts. You'll hear, people need to protect environment.
Right, but we have to use the for those specific abstract ideas and institutions because we treat them as unique entities.
The sources list them out. The environment, the economy, the law, the police, the army. The fix is to just make a point of always saying the article when you talk about them.
Okay, prepositions of time and place. This can feel like a minefield. The mistake is just confusion between all the small words.
For example, I was born on 1967 at Manchester. It's all mixed up.
The rule set here is tight, though. The sources say to think of it visually like concentric circles.
I like that. AT is for the smallest, most specific point, like a dot. At the hospital, at 3 o'clock.
ON is for a surface or a line. On the 12th of June, on the table.
And EN is the largest area, the box, in 1967, in August in Manchester. Using that visual analogy can really help map the rules in your head.
We also have 2 other major structural errors related to defining purpose and age.
Let's start with purpose. The mistake is using for instead of to explain why you did something, like, I came here for studying English.
When the rule is clear, use to plus the verb to express purpose. He went abroad to study, or I sat down to rest.
The second one is age. And this is often a direct transfer from other languages that use the verb to have for age.
So the mistake is, my sister has 15 years.
In English, we always use the verb be. I'm 27, she is 15 years old. We just never use have for age. Automating that one verb solves a really noticeable error.
Okay, so let's take all these grammatical tools and apply them. We're moving to part 5, communication in crisis. This is about moving from theory to the practical language you need when things go wrong.
Right, when you need to clearly and calmly advocate for yourself.
The sources give us some fantastic structured language for two really common scenarios: complaining about tech and complaining about a delivery.
The goal is a refund or a fix, and that requires precise grammar.
So take tech issues like slow Wi-Fi. You need the right tenses to show it's an ongoing problem.
Key phrases would be, my internet has been really slow lately, using that perfect tense to show the problem started in the past and is still happening.
Or the connection keeps dropping.
And you need the specific vocabulary to articulate the problem. Router, technician, and bandwidth, which is like the size of the pipe for your internet. And you have to be clear about the expectation. I'm not getting the speed I'm paying for.
And notice the grammar of politeness here. You don't demand, give me a technician.
No, you use the softest modal, would. You say, I would like to schedule a technician visit. That use of would is a direct application of what we were just talking about.
The second scenario is delivery issues. A meal arrives cold, the order is incomplete.
Vocabulary here includes missing items, ETA for estimated time of arrival, request a refund, and store credit.
And the phrasing has to be clear and factual. My order is missing some items. Or the food arrived cold, it looks like it's been sitting for a while.
And when you move to the resolution, you use those polite modals again. I'd like to request a refund for this. The sources really underscore the strategic value of staying calm and using precise language to get what you want.
We have covered so much ground here, linking these tiny grammatical fixes like when to use or instead of and to major communication goals.
The overall advice from all our sources really boils down to 3 core strategies for you to move these fixes from just knowledge into real automation.
Okay, number 1. Practice speaking phrases or sentences that use the rule instead of just reading the rule silently.
Right. Grammar has to become muscle memory.
Number 2. Memorize memorable examples over abstract rules.
I must go is just so much easier to recall instantly than the formal rule about modal verbs.
And number 3. Make your own tests. Use AI to generate gap fills for prepositions, or actively force yourself to change direct questions into embedded questions every morning.
Exactly. You have to be in control of your own practice. What stands out is that success isn't marked by knowing the definition of the simple past. Success is when the correct grammar is fully automated in a real conversation.
So we leave you with this final provocative thought. The simple past is often the first major tense learned, yet consistency is frequently the last skill mastered. If you can list your daily habits and successfully transpose them into perfectly consistent, simple past sentences, no mixing tenses, all verbs pronounced correctly with the T, D, or AID sound, you've won half the battle. So what is one specific, grammatically perfect memory you can create and share with yourself today?